I was dreaming. Well, how did I know it was a dream? Because I was looking at myself? It was exactly as I was saying. I was watching myself. To be more specific, I wasn't looking at the me in reality, but the me in the game. Hook. Jin Tae-kyung was panting. His clothes were ripped, and his face and body were starting to bruise. On the other hand, that fucker looked fine. Hyuk Moo-jin looked fresh. He was smirking and looked laid back. I was already tired. I couldn't breathe and my arms and legs felt heavy. My movements became wider and there were a lot of gaps in between. Sure enough, Hyuk Moo-jin dodged my punch and swept my feet, toppling me over. His movements flowed smoothly like water. The fight with him was a repetition of that scene. Asshole, he fights well. I needed to acknowledge that fact. Hyuk Moo-jin was stronger than me. He used his skills well and used Mugong I didn't recognize forcefully against me. I was overconfident after beating Jang Sam and his badness, so I felt the expectation that all fights would be like that one. And I also thought that if I combined my experience and the system's strength, that logging out would only be a matter of time. Even though he kept getting knocked down, Jin Tae-kyung kept getting up. No, I was watching myself. And in the end, I got done in one blow. Bak. Right, you were supposed to do it like that. Like my past experience. How I was doing it up until now. But how many levels does Hyuk Moo-jin have? At that moment, as if someone was replying to me, a window appeared above Hyuk Moo-jin's head. LV, 20 Hyuk Moo-jin now. Shut up. Shouldn't I raise my level first? Sleep mode has ended. My eyes opened at the same time I heard the system's message. Briefly, I thought I woke up in my Gashuan, but it was a useless thought. Have you woken? I saw a man with a white robe. I was in a clean room that had an odd scent. Where was I? As if he read my thoughts, the man answered. This is the infirmary. It has been half sure, Gene 3 since you have woken. So this was the infirmary. And this NPC was a doctor. If it's half sure Gene. I was unconscious for an hour. That Hyuk Moo-jin, he hit me well. You will probably be in a lot of pain due to your bruises. Don't move too much and rest. After he said that, the doctor left. As I heard the sound of his footsteps getting farther and farther away, I quietly muttered. Status window open. Ring. LV, 11 Jin Tae-kyung. Occupation, second-rate warrior. Fame, 10. Titles, son of a noble family / shame of the family. Titles currently applied. Strength, 40. Stamina, 10. Agility, 50. Intelligence, 10. Charm, 10. Chi, 10 years. Remaining points, 10. Please distribute your remaining points. The 10 points I received after I beat Jang Sam were still there. Just in case, I put off distributing my points, but that was when I didn't know I would be fighting Hyuk Moo-jin. I didn't know I would be beat up like that. After thinking about it, I decided to distribute my remaining 10 points to stamina. It was because the image of me panting in exhaustion came to mind when I was fighting with Hyuk Moo-jin. If I distributed my points earlier, would my odds have been higher? It was a sudden thought, but I shook my head. The end result would be the same. It was a fight between an adult and a child. That was the difference between Hyuk Moo-jin and me. And I felt it wasn't because of my level or stats, but because of the Mugong he used that widened the gap between us. How was that response, movement possible? Of course, in reality, there was martial arts. Boxing, Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu, and so on. It was basically modern martial arts. But in this place, martial arts was different. Every movement was practical and sophisticated. Each skill moved like it was part of a cogwheel. I need to become familiar with Mugong. If I ran into Hyuk Moo-jin instead of Jang Sam during the tutorial, defeat, or even death was natural. I needed to learn Mugong in order to survive. Fuck. A curse came out of my mouth. Someone from outside came into the room. It is this room. Thank you. Squeak. The door opened without a chance to respond. And in that place, you're a sight. With a cold gaze, there stood a middle-aged man. How is his condition? Although there is bruising, he's not in any serious condition. What a waste. It would be nice if even his legs were broken. The middle-aged man looked at me with a nefarious gaze. This reckless fool. I lowered my eyes, silent. Even though it was my first time seeing this person, this NPC, but I felt I had to do it. No, I needed to do that. LV. 3 question marks. It was a level I couldn't even see with chi sense. At a minimum of level 30. It was enough to think of Hyukmujin as cute. And the attitude he was showing me was enough for me to think he wasn't an ordinary NPC. At the very least, he looked like he had the authority to punish the third master. If I get hit once. Gulp. I swallowed my saliva when I saw how big his palms were. Disregarding levels, he just looked dangerous. A build that was close to 2 meters 4, the muscles that looked like a bulletproof vest, and his cold gaze was enough to make a person freeze. I was curious to know who he was. His hobby and his talent looked like it could be murder. But weirdly, his face looks vaguely familiar. Where did I see this Ajusi? I thought about it for a second when it came to me. Jin Taekyung. He looked like Jin Taekyung. No, it was right to say that Jin Taekyung looked like him. His high level and his gaze that trampled all over the third master. And lastly, his face. There was only one answer. He was Jin Taekyung's father. Without me knowing, the words came out of my mouth. F.A.? Father? His hand curled up into a fist and shook. If someone didn't know, it looked like someone cursed his mother out. I looked at his fist carefully and spoke. Just hold on a second and calm down. Calm down? How dare those words come out of your mouth? Even in this situation, you're playing around. If it's not true, then I'm really sorry. It was my mistake. Shut your mouth. He blocked my words with his cold gaze and turned his head towards the doctor that was still waiting at the side. Thank you for leading me here. You may leave now. I looked at the doctor desperately with a help me gaze, but the doctor left in a hurry. Fuck no. The doctor is just going to leave his patient? Quan. The sound of the door shutting sounded like the sound to the door to hell. The room in which the two of us were left. I kept an eye on his large palms as he walked towards me. There's a limit to how much of an idiot you can be. How long will you live like this? I started to slowly inch backwards. Bruises? Pain? I didn't feel those things. Actually, I was afraid of not being able to feel pain anymore. Give me just 10 minutes. Actually, if you can just give me the time to explain. Why are you mad? Are you mad because I called you father? Then are you my mother? This bastard. My body froze as his voice became louder and louder. I felt my back touch the wall. You have fallen into a state of confusion. You will be unable to move for 3 seconds. What the fuck? I'm dead. My 27 years of life passed by like a panorama. To lie a little bit, even my days as a sperm cell up until the day of my conception came to mind. Those days were hard. Mom, Dad, Heian. I closed my eyes and thought of my family. It was at that second. When you have time, all you do is play around with girls. Pat, and go into gambling houses. Touch. You're being treated contemptuously by the family because you act this way. Massage. What is this Ajusi doing right now? He was reprimanding me with his words, but was looking after me gently. I got goosebumps on the back of my neck. No, this is. Ring. You have fallen into a state of fear. You will be unable to move for 5 seconds. You're the shame of the family, the shame. I really felt the shame. To think I would be assaulted by not only an AI, but a middle-aged NPC. Mom. The realization that it was all a misunderstanding came after. His hand was busy, but it felt like a doctor examining a patient's body. He looked under my eyes, he checked my pulse, and even looked attentively at my bruises. Every time his hand passed over a certain area of my body, it felt like I was not only getting a massage, but the pain disappeared too. You fool. If you keep acting like this, huh? You'll have a hard time. Do you know? His hand stopped moving, and he spoke in a quiet voice. It's a relief it's not as serious as I thought. Why did you fight? You don't even do Magong training regularly. I opened my mouth with sincerity. It was a question with different implications. Who are you? The next moment, sternness, solemnity, seriousness. All three were present in his face when he looked at me like someone looking at an injured fawn. Why are you suddenly using formal language with me? I only called you the shame of the family before so that other people could hear me. Is this because you're disappointed with me? What? Your young is sad. When you were young, I even changed your diapers, held you when you cried, and helped you sleep. You know how fondly I looked after you. What? Hyung did. Silence. There's nothing wrong with him. It was the doctor's examination result. He nodded his head with the sincerity that he was right, because his words were the truth. There's nothing wrong with my brain. It was only that I entered this body. But it seemed like someone wasn't satisfied with the examination results. Then why can't he remember anything? A dangerous voice. Now I knew his name. Jin Huikyung. He was Jin Taikyung's oldest brother and the patriarch of the family, Jin Huikyung. He really wasn't my father. That young man, he even looked like he was going to cry earlier. But now, like clockwork, he had a mask of dignity. The doctor, who didn't do anything wrong, answered. Even though that is my result, occasionally I might be wrong. It's fine. You can leave. The doctor left with a hurt expression, and Jin Huikyung, as if we're waiting, came to my side. His voice was overflowing with affection and worry. You really don't remember anything? Yes. Nothing? I quietly nodded my head up and down. I already calculated how I would act. I'll just keep going like this. Like a patient with amnesia in a drama. There was no way I could be even more comfortable in this kind of situation. I didn't need to put in effort to match the situation in the game, and I didn't need to gain any more information. I just needed to lay in bed and say I didn't know anything and just blink my eyes, and the situation would just keep going naturally. Just like right now. Do you remember the words you just said a minute ago? Which words? Thinking I lost my memory, Jin Huikyung told me some basic information, and that was when I found out who he was. What is my name? Jin Huikyung. Taiyuan's Jin family's patriarch. My age? 35. Geez, to think he was in his 30s with that face. And on top of that, he was even a bachelor who wasn't even married yet. Our parents. Our father is touring the central area. Our mother passed away 10 years ago. Good job. And your second Hyung? Jin's heavenly sword, Jin Mukyung. 25. He's currently a student at Cheonmu Academy. I didn't know where Cheonmu Academy was. I was just repeating what I was told like a parrot. I answered like a machine, and Jin Huikyung nodded his head at my words. Jin's heavenly sword? Did I say that too? No. I heard that from the driver. Jin Huikyung and I looked at each other at the same time, and I hit my head. Oh, my head. My head hurts. Agu, youngest. If it was at this level, it was a cheat key. It's simply bruises, so even at the maximum, the swelling and bruises should disappear in 3 days. The doctor spoke and left the infirmary. A servant who looked easy-tempered stood waiting at the entrance. I am here to lead Master Nim to his room. The servant walked ahead of me. As if he was already aware of the fact that I lost my memory, he also explained to me what building was what and quietly pointed out who was who when we saw them. A guide, an errand person, an encyclopedia. I could see what Jin Huikyung's goal was when he sent the servant. He wanted to look after me, even though he was busy himself. We are here. The building we stopped at was 2 stories and was made of wood. Usually you would see these kinds of buildings in China. It was a very traditional-looking building. Wow, it was really large. It was at the level that my mouth dropped open automatically as soon as the servant opened the doors. The second floor is the bedroom. There are bells placed all over the interior, so if there's anything you need, please feel free to ring them. After the servant left, I came back to my senses and looked around the front. The first floor alone looked like it was over 100 pyong too. Compared to my lonely Gashawan, which was only 2 pyong, it was comparable to an Olympic stadium. This is the first time I've been jealous of an NPC. On the first floor, there were 6 rooms. My interest skyrocketed. I wonder what's in there. Treasures? Magong manuals? Or amazing items? It didn't matter what it was. I opened the closest room. Whoa,